What a nice start to the podcast, Derek. I don't know if everybody heard that.
That's my wife's text to him because we're big Star Wars fans, and I forgot to turn the ringer off. And yeah, I do love you though, Darnay, and I hope you know.
I love you back. We love our viewers. We love our listeners as well. And we hope the love is mutual. This is the On Friar podcast. He is Derek Togerson. That was his cell phone. I am Darnay Tripp. A critical stretch continues for the Padres. Bunch of close games, bunch of division opponents, and a bunch of topics to hit on over the course of the next hour or so. Excited to do so. Derek, fresh off of vacation. Good to have you back. Hope it was
Good to be around.
Good time away, and we will we'll launch into some reaction to what we saw against the Dodgers. Look ahead to the Diamondbacks, and hey, they go up to Chavez Ravine next week, so the fun continues. Thanks to OGs, the sponsor of the On Friar podcast. Appreciate all they do for On Friar and the NBC7 sports team. If you need a place to catch a Padres game, maybe watch the U.S. Open this weekend. Perhaps a victorious week for JJ Spawn, Aztec for life. Some NBA Finals, Stanley Cup Finals, whatever you're into, OG's is a place to do it. Lots of TVs, great menu, awesome beer list, bunch of locations around San Diego County. So thanks to OG's and all they do for the On Fire podcast. Without further ado, the walk-up music. It is the On Fire podcast brought to you by NBC7. He is Derek Togerson. I am Darnay Tripp. How do we find you on this fine Thursday afternoon, Derek?
Looking for bats. How about you? I think everyone in San Diego right now is looking for a bat or seven.
So we're like a week away from a Derek Togerson 10,000 word on NBC7.com piece breaking down every possible trade option. We are dangerously close to that territory, Derek.
Yes, we are. 10,000, that's probably right in the right ballpark too. Yeah, it's one of those, like it's a coffee table book where you can sit and read it for a while. You can take it to the bathroom with you if you really want to get away from life or the kids or whatever it is. And it's going to just kind of read and immerse yourself in the nonsensical ramblings of someone who likes to talk about baseball way more than you probably should.
You always give us our money's worth on those pieces, and I think we are getting close. I had a weird thing happen to me yesterday. I was at the Padres game. I'm curious if you've ever experienced this. I showed up like in the second inning. There's something else I covered in the morning. Knew I was going to get there late. Always kind of tough to find a parking spot. We know Petco Park. There was 45,000 plus for a Wednesday afternoon game against the Dodgers, another sellout crowd, as we've come to expect. I parked in the tailgate lot, and it was like chock full, as you'd expect it to be at that point. And the guy just had me park at a spot that wasn't really a spot. It was like at the end of a row. There were cars perpendicular, and I was like, I don't know if they're going to be able to get out. I'm going to be staying here late. Is this going to be okay? He's like, yeah, you're fine. And I'm running late, and so I'm just like, all right, I could, they could probably weasel their way out. So I just went with it.
But you got that little gnawing thought in the back of your head.
The entire time. Now, the thing that you thought might happen didn't happen, fortunately. But I come out, and I'm walking to where I think my car should be, and my car is not there. But then I look a couple rows over, and my car is over here. Somehow my car got moved from the tailgate lot from one spot to another. And so I don't know if they were just like, this car's in the way. I had my little media placard there. They're like, okay, this isn't a tow situation, but we have to move this guy somehow, some way. And I have no clue how. My car was relocated in the tailgate lot yesterday. Looked around, it was fine, running fine. Don't seem to be any issues there, so that's all great. But I've been scratching my head ever since.
Okay, I'll ask the obvious question. Sometimes, and I'll have this happen like at a parking lot at like a grocery store or something, like you swear you parked in one spot, but you got out kind of haggardly, hurriedly, and like you realize, I'm 2 rows over. Like you're positive that where you left your car is not where you found it.
Yes, because again, it was like at the end of a row, and then there's the other perpendicular spot. So they're like parking this way, and then you get to the end of the row, kind of by the walkway in the middle tailgate lot, and they're parked this way. So it was one of these situations. I was parked here. There were these spots along the walkway here, and I was parked over here. And there were no perpendicular spots nearby, if that makes
Was
sense.
your car locked when you got there?
I think so.
Okay, because if you got there and it was unlocked, but you sure you had locked it, then somebody had actually jimmied the car open, hot wired it, and moved it over a couple of spots.
Perhaps, or somebody like, I know where, a lot of people have these situations where you have like the same car and your key works for the other car and you get in, then you sit down, you're like, oh wait, this is somebody else's car. So maybe it's like one of those situations, because now it's not the key anymore, it's the fob and this and that. So anyways, that was,
getting a tow truck in there to physically move it, if it's as cramped as you were saying, like how would that work?
That's a great question. And the same thought came to mind. If they're not, unless everybody else cleared out and it was just like the two cars that were kind of perpendicular to mine, maybe they couldn't get out. I don't know.
But yeah, you'd think still though, if you have enough room to get a tow truck in, then you have enough room to get a car out.
Yes. So we might need to get in touch with somebody from like Ace Parking to figure out what, standard protocol is in situations like this, but I haven't been able to wrap my head around it.
Because I've been up in the press box sometimes where like one of our photojournalists, they have the special placards. They can park in yellow zones and green zones for longer and things like that, where they've said, hey, you got to move your car. Police need you to move it. Something's happening down there, like a fire or an emergency type situation. Go down there and move it now. But that's always kind of an area you're expecting it to happen. I've never had anything like that happen where you're at one spot and you go out and your car is perfectly fine. It's just migrated somewhere else to a different part of the parking lot. That's actually fascinating. We got to pull the CCTV camera footage because they have it all over that tailgate lot. See what exactly happened. Can we get a time frame on? I'm going full metal CSI on you right now, and this is kind of awesome. This is more intriguing and interesting than anything the Padres offense did in the first or third games of that Dodgers series.
And that is a great segue, because I was thinking about doing this podcast and having this conversation with you and thinking about the last few days and all the hype that goes into a Dodgers series. And I was there yesterday in the clubhouse afterwards, and I just left that series, and maybe this is fine, but with an overwhelming feeling of, meh, okay. I didn't necessarily feel like they got totally outclassed by the Dodgers. The Dodgers aren't, they're not at full strength either. Some close games, a complete blowout in favor of the Padres. I'm trying to figure out, and maybe you don't take something away from every series, but it just kind of felt like a whatever few games to me. Am I off mark here?
No, not really. I look at it as, I think what this did was crystallize the difference between the Padres and the Dodgers. And it shows you the Padres are not that far off. The biggest difference, look, the Padres need a bat. We all know that, right? There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They outscored the Dodgers in the series overall and still lost 2 out of 3 games because the 2 losses were close games. The bottom line is, and this is what we've seen with the Padres and Dodgers over time, is when the rubber meets the road and you need to have a superstar do something in a big moment, the Dodgers superstars do that more often than the Padres superstars do. Case in point, Wednesday afternoon, bases loaded, chance to get a couple runs in. I believe it was nobody outs.
1 out.
Luis Ariz pops up and then double play ball. You're going, the Dodgers would have gotten at least a run, probably 2 out of that, because they do it all the time. And it was Luis Ariz and Manny Machado. The guys are coming up. Those are your stars. Those are your big guns. Those are the guys you need to do this. And it didn't happen. And Manny, by the way, was on a 3-0 pitch. He swung at a 3-0 pitch that was up. Probably not the pitch he's going to be able to drive real well. Maybe trying to do a little too much. You don't see Freddie Freeman do that. You don't see Mookie Betts do that. You don't see Shohei Ohtani do that. The Dodger superstars consistently perform in the biggest moments, more so than the Padres superstars do. Xander Bogarts is a shell of himself. I don't know what the hell's going on there. So that's what was crystallized to me, is if you get into a close game with the Dodgers, you're going to have an issue unless your superstars show up. If the Padres superstars show up and let's say it's a wash between those guys, the Padres have shown that they're probably a better team with the peripheral players than the Dodgers are, especially with everybody LA has on the injured list right now. But the guys who make the differences are the difference makers. And that's what's happening. So that I took away from that is, okay, the pieces are there. You just need to have your guys be your guys when they're supposed to do it. Our old buddy Jim Lazovic always used to say, big players make big plays in big games. That's what the Padres have to have their guys doing, and that's what they didn't do in this series in the 2 games that they lost. So, yeah, they're not very far off. Did it suck? Yes. Does it feel like a couple missed opportunities? Absolutely. But we know the problem. And the problem is the guys you have need to step up and do what they need to do, and you need to lengthen that lineup a little bit. So it was a good way to diagnose where the Padres are right now compared to their biggest tormentors up to 5.
Yeah, that's very well put. And, even a guy like Teoscar Hernandez, who isn't, one of the big 3 or even 4, if you want to throw Will Smith, who's, all-star level guy.
Yeah, but he's got such a punchable face. He's such a jerk.
Teoscar coming through with the big swing that he had to take a 1-1 game and make it a 4-1 game. And there was even that, earlier inning where I think it was the second where Martin Maldonado walks in a run. Who's up next? Fernando Tatis Jr., bases loaded, 2 outs, and they don't get anything out of it. Yep. So that was certainly the story of the game. And I think to your point, yeah, you could maybe say that's the story of the season as a whole, which leads me to a couple different thoughts. One is just the overall lack of slug. We talked, I think, a couple weeks ago about, I would love to know runs per home run. I feel like it's a big solo home run team, whereas you get a 3-run swing from the Dodgers. I don't think have the Padres had a grand slam this year. I don't believe so.
They've had plenty of opportunities.
They've had some opportunities, and so there's an overall lack of power. And then they were terrible in clutch situations in 2023. Really good in clutch situations in 2024, and back to being not very good in clutch situations this year. And you could also lump it in, like their profile in the clutch probably isn't too far off from the just general offensive profile. I think they're middle of the pack, slightly worse offensively. They're like 24th in like with runners on, bases loaded situations, runners in scoring positions situations. So they just haven't been very good, and they got by with lights out pitching the first month plus of the season, especially that early stretch. So many injuries, guys gone from that rotation, a little bit less reliable game in and game out as far as what the bullpen has given you, and you just don't have an offense that's able to carry you at the moment. And it's starting to show. And what are they? They were, I think, 10 games above 500 going in the Dodgers series. They lost 2 of 3. Are they what, 9 games under now? They were 14-3. All this to say, long clumsy way of saying they were 11 games over 500 after 17 games. They're 9 games over 500 now. So they've been playing 500, slightly below 500 ball since the first 2.5 weeks of the season. Again, that's not going to kill you, because we saw they were playing 500 ball for the first 100 games of last season. They ended up doing okay. So they built themselves a little cushion, but it's just been a very underwhelming group since then. The numbers back it up. And our buddy Kyle Glazer, who is now doing his Friar Territory podcast, he's always got great information. Padres offensive ranks over the last month, tied for 29th in average, 30th in on base, 30th in slugging, 30th in OPS, tied for 26 in runs per game, and 29th in home runs per game. So it's been rough for a good little stretch here.
Yep. Yes, it has. What's weird is they have the best batting average in baseball with 2 outs, which is weird. They have the 16th best batting average in baseball with runners in scoring position, which is not good, which is weird, because you figured that with runners in scoring position should be easier to hit than with 2 outs, right? With 2 outs, it's like, okay, the pitcher's bam, he's rolling, he's cruising, he's doing it. But the Padres somehow found a way with 2 outs, even if nobody's on base, get on base. Here we go. But when they have runners in scoring position, even when there are fewer than 2 outs, even when there's a guy on third base and less than 2 outs, they're not good. So there's some disconnect in, I don't know if it's approach, I don't know if it's who's coming up. I don't understand it. The Dodgers, by the way, hitting .301 as a team in runners in scoring position. There's your difference. The next best team in baseball is the Cubs, 10 points behind them. That's what they do, man. They take advantage of all their opportunities. If the Padres could just figure out ways to take advantage of all their opportunities with runners in scoring position and runners on base, they'd be the best offense in baseball. They have all kinds of opportunities with these guys to bring in the runners, and they're just not doing it. Now, I do also hold out hope that, as we've seen with Mike Schultz teams, they always get better in the second half of the season. So they're actually early right now. They're ahead of schedule, if you will. Jackson Merrill's had a bit of a downturn. Manny Machado's been carrying the team. Fernando Tatis Jr. is in a 2-month slump. You got to figure at some point he's going to get out of his own head and start swinging the bat well again. Luis Arraez is not doing what we've seen Luis Arraez do. He's sitting in the high 270s, low 280s. That's not the Luis Arraez that we know and love. So eventually these guys, I have to think, are going to click and good things are going to happen. I think it's getting a little to the point now where it's like, okay, guys, let's move it along a little bit here. We're getting about to the halfway part of the season, like 70 games in. Let's roll now. But I do still hold out hope that the talent's there. They just have to figure it out and start applying it.
Did Derek just disappear there? I have no idea what just happened. So Derek was mid-thought there and disappeared. So I'll pick up his thought. Yes, we are at the stage in the season where there he is. And he's back.
I just got kicked out by StreamYard.
I have no idea. I don't think I touched something. I have no idea how that happened.
I guarantee I didn't. StreamYard hates me. Most technology does.
Yes, I mean you're absolutely right in that. Okay, it's time to, especially as far as Tatis, his slump is gone. Xander Bogarts, yeesh. Luis Arraez, 2 great pieces on Fangraphs in the last week. One very concerning about Luis Arraez. One very encouraging about Manny Machado and what he's done. And it tracks in terms of what we've seen. Manny's been awesome and kind of gives you a bit of the feel that you had in 2022 when he's just so consistent, even if he's not hitting for a ton of power lately. And the power has returned the last few weeks. And Luis Arraez, to just kind of maybe encapsulate that piece, like, Luis Arraez seems to be trying to be Luis Arraez too much, and it's maybe too much Luis Arraez. And if he kind of scales back and the numbers kind of match it up to like his approach, swing habits, that sort of thing from like 2022, then you might get a better version. But just too much swinging out of the zone, not enough power. Obviously, that's not what you look for from him, but it's even kind of deteriorated based on what you had, or from what you had kind of a couple years ago. So that's part of it.
Not striking out.
He's still not striking out, but I think he did.
It's a bunch of soft contact. Yeah, I know. I've seen him. Now he's a guy who, as we know, will take pitches early in account to see what a guy has. Yeah. But I've seen him even kind of notice, like, man, there's a lot of hittable pitches that he's watching.
Yeah.
And then it's almost like I think pitchers maybe understanding that now are getting a lot of the strike zone early in counts, and then purposefully going a little farther outside the strike zone with each one, because they know that he can handle that pitch. As we've talked about on this podcast, he can do it. He might just be putting himself in that situation to do it far more often than he needs to, and that's leading to some of this frustration.
I looked at the meatball swing rates for the Padres just out of curiosity the other night, because we've all seen it like so often, something grooved right down the middle and they just take it. And you're like, well, you're not going to see a better pitch than that. And the guys that you would expect to have above league average swing rates on meatball swings, Manny, Tatis, Merrill, like those guys are about, they're above average. As aggressive guys swinging for the fences often, like, doesn't surprise you. Luis Arraez below, Xander Bogarts about 10, 12 points below league average. There's some others down the line. I think Jake as well. And so again, it does kind of go to the approach, and you'd maybe like to see them be a bit more aggressive. And as it pertains to Arraez, you would like to see him be more aggressive in the zone and maybe be a little bit more discerning when it comes to swinging at pitches outside of the zone, because he's often swinging at ball 3, ball 4. And there are some instances where, he takes something that's 4 inches off the plate, shoulder high, and drops it into shallow left field. There's also instances where he's swinging at that and he's, sending the dribbler to shortstop or something like that, and you're not getting anything out of it.
Yeah, him I'm not as concerned about because he's got the track record of 3 straight batting titles. He's going to be a guy. Bogarts is the one that still I saw it again on the Wednesday where take a first pitch sinker, 92 right down the middle, strike out on a sweeper 4 inches off the plate, swinging. And I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing? It's almost like I don't know if he's twisted up in the head or if he's not. I honestly turned to my wife and I said, Aaron, he should get his eyesight checked because I don't think he's picking the ball up. Not one of those like sarcastic, like, oh, can you even see? Like, oh, umpire, you suck. I'm like, I'm wondering if he's physically not able to see spin very well right now. And if it just hasn't quite registered with him yet. Like his pitch recognition is terrible. And for a guy with that kind of track record, it's weird that he's not seeing the ball as well as we've seen him see it. Something might be like, and again, I'm not a doctor. I'm just throwing crap out there, but it looks like he's just not picking up the ball. So either he's not seeing it well or he's not recognizing what he's seeing. And not recognizing what he's seeing would be much worse because that's a much larger problem and conversation to get into. It just looks like he physically can't tell what's coming at him right now. It's weird.
And I mean, and it's just swing looks like there's no power in it whatsoever. I mean, it's
he's
so
waving
much
at a lot of pitches. He's just kind of waving at stuff. Instead
Yeah,
of getting out there and hacking.
just kind of like a lot of these kind of like almost like one-handed, just kind of dropping the barrel on it, and it's just like a harmless bloop too. There was 1 or 2 like that on Wednesday, and coming in big spots, and it's just like that's not going to get anything done. And out of curiosity, I went and looked at some of his, like every home run from 2019 or every home run from 2021 melts, and I'm like, again, like I'm no swing doctor, what do I know? But just to see if there's anything that looked like obviously different, and I didn't notice anything. But it's just strange that there is just no pop in that bat. There's just no power whatsoever, just soft contact. And that hasn't necessarily been the case all season. Like to try and conjure up some sort of optimism, we've said, oh, a lot of hard hit balls. I think Wednesday he had like 3 100 plus. So there's some hard contact there here and there, but like in the air line drives, it just seems so seldom. I don't know.
Okay, here's what's weird. I'm looking right now at the new StatCast bat tracking stats. Xander Bogarts is up 2 miles an hour on a swing speed. His fast swing rates is up 10%.
Really?
This year over the last. I know I'm shocked at this as well. That should be creating better contact, right?
I would think.
Like if you're swinging the bat, and also by the way, his swing length is the same. It's identical. This isn't jive. This is one of those situations where the numbers don't jive. Swing length exactly the same as it's ever been, 7.2 to 7.3. It's basically negligible. It's null set. His average bat speed is up from 70.4 to 72.5 this year. His fast swing rate, which is greater than 75 miles an hour, 25%, a quarter of the time, he's in the elite range of swing speed. And yet it looks like he's not making anything that resembles hard contact. It's weird. He's like Stonehenge. I don't understand it. I know what I'm looking at, but I don't get where it comes from.
No clue. And it's like we keep grasping, and I think he had a game against the Giants. He had this game Wednesday against the Dodgers, and we spoke a few weeks ago and come through in some big spots, and it's just not there. And going back to what you're saying just about the lineup as a whole, they were so good early in the season when everybody was hitting. Tyler Wade was hitting, Gavin Sheets, Jake Cronenworth got off to a nice start. Bogarts was okay, solid the first month of the season. And it just takes me back to like, Tatis and Machado and these guys function so much better in a deeper lineup. Like you're not, and we should leave Manny Machado out of this conversation because Manny's been really good. Maybe it's more of a Tatis thing.
It's a Tatis thing for sure.
It's like you're not necessarily just going to get the same baseline of performance, regardless of like the context. We saw it in 2023 when there was nobody in the lineup. It affected everybody. And they spoke so much about the confidence in passing the baton. They don't have to do everything. They can be, you know, they can have smarter at bats and yeah, they don't have to be so aggressive, borderline reckless when they know that there's help down the line. And right now, there is not help down the line on a consistent basis with Maldonado and Diaz hitting before Tatis and Luis Ariz the way he's swinging it right now after Tatis. And Mike Schill doesn't seem to be in any hurry to alter the lineup in any way, shape, or form. But part of me wonders, like, you know, if you sandwiched Tatis between a Merrill and a Machado, or if you move things around a little bit, you know, does that help in some regard? Because as we've seen, the group as a whole, and it's probably a baseball thing as a whole, but in particular, like this set of stars seems to function a lot better when the full lineup is contributing. Everybody feels good about what the guy in front of them, behind them is capable of and doing. And right now we're not in that kind of case. Like it's Manny Machado and kind of nobody else at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, Gavin Sheets occasionally.
Yeah.
It's like everybody will show up on one day and then nobody will show up the next week, the rest of the week. It's like I said, Merrill's going to come out of it. He's, already shows I think he's been dinged up and we haven't really heard much about it. He's trying to hide it, whatever it is. I don't know. Luis Campusano was only on this team right now because they have really no other decent options. I think they have no faith in him. I don't think he's earned any faith that they should be giving him. I think the experiment with Campusano was over. It's gone. Love Diaz and Maldonado behind the plate. They give you just enough. And again, if you had the two dudes in front of them hitting, it wouldn't stand out as much that the number 9 hitter occasionally gives you a bases loaded walk or a solo home run or, a decent pinch hit every now and again. But when you have 3 guys, the bottom 3-4 guys in the lineup not hitting, it stands out a little bit more. So now you might have to address the catcher situation just to find more offense somewhere. Again, they need a bat. They need a bat in a bad way. And I don't know where that bat's going to come from. It's not going to come from interior. It's not going to come from inside the system. It's going to have to come from outside the system. And AJ, I'm not talking about another Adam Frazier situation here. Okay, we need somebody who's a difference-making bat who can, get you extra bases, do something on the base paths. It has some power, has shown the ability to hit the ball in the ballpark. That's what we're looking for here.
It's like I get so concerned because I often feel like when the Padres bring in one of those guys, like you're not necessarily talking about like an all-star type, but a guy that can play almost every day. Maybe you move him around a little bit based on the splits, but like you can rely on him, like a steady, consistent bat. And Peralta and Solano kind of pushed against this last year, but I just feel like there's always diminishing returns. There's diminishing returns with Adam Frazier. There's diminishing returns with Mitch Moreland. He was hitting 300 when they got him in 2020. You're like, okay, this guy left side of the plate going to be a stud.
Austin Nola,
Brandon Drury, Josh Bell. There's been so many instances. Connor Joe. I don't know. There's been so many instances.
Soto.
Juan freaking Soto. Absolutely. For whatever reason, there's been diminishing returns when they brought a lot of these guys in. So I'm with you. Like they got to do it. But then there's also part of me that it's like if you bring in like a Taylor Ward type, obviously Jaron Duran's getting a lot of talk, but there's just, I have this sinking fear that you bring in one of these guys and it's 230 with a 710 OPS. And you're just like, okay, not like the worst guy ever, but he's not really elevating anything.
So does that make Luis Robert more desirable? Because his numbers are terrible right now anyway.
Right.
So,
and AJ loves
a 230 with a 710. It's an upgrade for him.
AJ loves loves salvaging, a former star, former toolsy prospect. And, Luis is certainly one of those guys where, the talent was clearly there. And for whatever reason, there's been a dip. And so you're you're betting on buying low. So 100%. I don't know if you saw Jim Bowden's list. See if I can bring that up. For the Athletic, about he had basically a trade target or a trade idea for every contending team. And for the Padres, it was honed in on left field. Taylor Ward, Jesus Sanchez, Jaron Duran, Kyle Stowers, Lourdes Gurriel, and Adolis Garcia as guys potentially in left field that they could bring in. And, Duran being the guy that's gotten a lot of talk, he said a more realistic trading partner could end up being the Angels with Ward, 18 homers, 45 RBIs, but he doesn't get on base, 261 on base, and profiles as an average type of player. And so maybe Victor can work some magic there. Hopefully he can harness the power and keep that going for a guy that might not cost you quite as much. I don't know what his team control situation is.
Let me see.
But let's see. Arbitrate next year.
Luis Robert is signed. He's club options at $20 million per in 26 and 27.
Eesh. Taylor Ward, they have.
A lot for a guy. You're banking on talent.
You can't afford another Xander Bogarts contract.
Oh yeah, again, I mean, club options. I don't know. Now here's the thing: I don't know if a trade negates them, or if you pick up one, you have to pick up the next one. They're saying, I mean, he's 27 years old. Like, the talent is there. We've seen it.
Yeah.
It's just, is he a change of scenery guy? Is he just like the fact that the White Sox situation is so bad and dismaying that nobody can perform well there? I mean, Gavin Sheets has basically told me that to my face. Like, I'm playing competitive games now. Like, I didn't have that the last couple of years. So I kind of like, I don't, it's hard to get engaged every day when you have no chance to win. Now he's here and he has a chance to win. He's engaged every day. That's because is Robert going to be maybe the same way? I don't know. It's again, Taylor Ward's a guy who I think you mentioned like a Brandon Drury, right? He's a good dude, going to have some moments. Is he the everyday option solution? He's got one more year of arbitration after this. I don't know. Doesn't feel like it. Is there truly a difference maker that's going to be on the market? Who is a bat? Sandy Alcantara. I don't know if the Marlins are going to, part with him. They'd be selling at the lowest possible point with him if they do, but I could see them doing it. I'm not sure, since they got rid of Kim Ang, they have really had no clue what they're doing over there. So maybe they do it. I don't know. That would solve a lot of issues in the starting rotation. I think our friend AJ Cassaville put it great on MLB.com, where he said the Padres could use another starting pitcher. They need a bat. They've got to find one. So who are we not thinking of? Who's outside the peripheral, on the peripheral here, where it hasn't popped up in trade rumors yet? I mean, Jaron Duran, again, we talked about this before last season. Go out and get the guy. And they didn't. He became the MVP of the All-Star game. He's a really good ball player. Now his price has gone up, not as much as people think, because the Red Sox really, really, really want to bring up Roman Anthony, the number one prospect in baseball. So that
didn't they? I think they did, didn't they?
Yeah, they need to find a place for him to play. So Duran's the easy guy to get rid of in that situation. So they don't have a whole truckload of leverage because they're active. Everyone knows they're actively trying to get rid of the guy. So it's not going to cost an arm and a leg. I heard people talking about Ethan Salas for him. No, it's not going to cost you Ethan Salas to get him. It's not going to cost you Leo DeVries to get him. It's going to cost you something short of that to get Jaron Duran.
The Orioles are one of those teams that we've also discussed a bunch, and they've made some deals. And so, they're not having the season that they probably expected to. So, maybe there's some options there as well.
Heston Kjerstad kind of thing.
People have discussed Ramon Laureano, left fielder.
Again, great defensively. Does he bring you enough with the bat?
Got it. 850 OPS this season. From the right side, let's see. And he's a guy that has reverse splits, so that's not helping you out. He hits righties better than he hits lefties. They could use somebody that can hit lefties. So, that, I don't know if that's the best option. And I also just the timing of it, because we're a month plus later than when AJ made the Luis Arise deal last year.
Mhm.
And, that was a couple months after he made the Dylan Cease deal. And both those guys, I would imagine, would have fetched their team more at the deadline than they got from the Padres at that point. And you're now a month and a half away from the deadline, a month from like it really starting to kind of pick up. And so you're going to get to that point where it might get harder to make a deal because more people are in kind of buy mode or sell mode, and it gets a little bit more competitive. And so I would, we know AJ is always working, so I'm sure he's, been making some phone calls, but I'm curious if there's a window now where it might make sense for AJ to try and pull something off before everybody's in kind of, make a deal mode.
Oh, absolutely. It is. That's why teams are already starting to talk about these guys. Go and get one now, because there are going to be very few impact / difference making types of players out there this year. So go out and get one while you can. But here's the other problem too, is like you mentioned, the Angels. The Angels right now are 2.5 games out of a wild card spot. Like what's their motivation to sell?
Yeah.
They've overachieved this year. Great. Ron Washington, man, we talked about him before Bob Melvin was hired. That's a dude we'd love to have leading their ball club. That's what he helps teams win baseball games. That's what he's doing with the Angels right now. They're 2.5 games out. Why would they? How do you sell that to a fan base that's been hurting for a while? And by the way, you just got Mike Trout back. Why not keep it? Go add something. Go try and find. The only teams I can see right now that are absolutely going to be in sell mode: White Sox, Marlins, Pirates, Rockies, probably the A's. Right? The A's have a lot of young talent they're probably not going to want to part with, especially as they're, getting ready to allegedly move into a Vegas ballpark. But you never know what they're thinking. The Orioles are the other one are going, okay, I can kind of see it. And then the team I'm looking at right now at 34 and 36 and 3 games out of a wild card spot is the Red Sox. And I'll tell you why, because I think they're on the brink of a youth movement. They brought up our guy, Marcelo Mayer. They brought up Christian Campbell. They've got their boy, Roman Anthony. They got this bumper crop of these 3 young guys. I think they're getting ready to sell to the fan base of, look, this is our future. So let's get rid of some of these other peripheral. We're going to hold on to Devers, going to hold on to a couple of our arms, and we're going to go all in with all this young stuff. Go out and get a couple of more prospects for a couple of these guys. And then you're going to have this, in a year and a half, 2 years, you're going to have all these guys maturing at once, and they become a real powerhouse in the National League East again. I could totally see them thinking along those lines. So maybe you go out, you sell off a couple of their, older or more established pieces. Maybe that's a team, the Red Sox, you're ready to kind of go into sell mode this year because they see they're not ready to compete this year with what's going on in the East. But in the year after that and the year after that, they can absolutely make some hay. I could talk myself into that. Other than that, there's not a whole lot of teams right now that beyond the shadow of a doubt, they're selling, start pillaging them now.
And it's left field. It's a right-handed bat off the bench, somebody that can maybe platoon with Sheets if need be. He's had some moments. I mean, homer off Chris Sale, so he's proven that he can do it, but the numbers still aren't great. Catcher, leaves a lot to be desired. And it's hard to tell listening to Mike Schilt if he sees it or how much of it is just Schilt and his borderline toxic positivity, where he just kind of like refuses to acknowledge that things aren't great right now. And, he's always going to be effusive in his praise over Maldi and Diaz. And those guys have had some moments. I mean, Maldonado homered the other night. But and going back to lineup construction, like, I know he's been asked about that and doesn't seem all that intent on making some moves. And it felt like a week ago was kind of the time to do it, and they didn't. And so you can't stay put. We know that. We know AJ's never interested in staying put. But are they going to be able to work out the type of deal? Because again, it does feel a little bit 2021-ish when you're like, okay, they also needed pitching that year, and they upgraded they upgraded the rotation by strengthening the bullpen, right? That was the way it was sold with Daniel Hudson. Daniel Hudson was a disaster after the trade deadline. Adam Frazier wasn't a fit. And so that I still have some PTSD from that deadline just because it went so completely sideways.
Max Scherzer, Ken Rosenthal, you suck.
And then there was the Max Scherzer situation as well. So I don't know, but what can this team realistically do if they aren't able to upgrade and say Yu Darvish comes back? We have to be concerned about Michael King at this point. If we weren't already. Schilt offered another explanation yesterday where they know a bit more about what it is, but still don't seem to have quite a handle on like how to treat it going forward. Rest has been kind of the suggestion. It is outside of, I think he said, the purview of baseball. It's not a typical baseball injury. He said something about case by case basis. Well, that makes me a little bit concerned because on one case, see you in a week. On the other case, you're shut down for the year. It's just like, and we're no closer, and it's been a few weeks now. So
yeah, it's a pinched nerve. Like there's a thing. Doctor, having had one of these, throw it on the list of all the crap, that Derek's gone through. You got to find out what's aggravating the nerve. And it can be very difficult to lock that down. So which is both encouraging and really kind of scary because again, there's nothing structurally wrong. It's not like you can look at it and go, oh, shoot, your rotator cuff. All right, we got to sew that back up. We know you're gone. Like there's nothing there that is keeping him from throwing other than there's pain in there. And if there's pain in there, there's something wrong. Well, a nerve, it could be a disease that's causing nerve discomfort. It can be a roaming bone chip that is somehow rubbed up against it that has to get shaved down. There can be so many different things that are causing a nerve impingement that you have to, check this. Is that causing it? Is that better? No. And you have to go through this checklist of finding out whatever it is. And finally you get to the thing that it is, and then you can, proceed and how to relieve it from there. So that's a frustrating part here is he's like, it's not like, okay, my elbow sore. Okay, elbow sore means this list of things. We'll try this. There's a playbook for it. With the pinched nerve, there's a playbook, but it's a long freaking playbook, and it's not immediate on what exactly is going to help. That's what stinks about this.
Yeah, and it's a playbook that they don't have laying around in baseball clubhouses.
Right. It's not common for baseball players. Exactly.
Yeah, and God bless Stephen Kolek and Ryan Bergert and Randy Vasquez, because those guys just keep giving them solid innings, and we were talking about this and maybe you have a suggestion in the press box yesterday. They're not necessarily getting quality starts game in, game out, but I want a term for the rung right below a quality start, where maybe it's 4 and 6 innings or 2 and 5, and your pitch count gets to you, because it feels like a lot of those type starts, especially around the 5-inning range, giving up between 1 and 3 runs. It's going to give you a chance to win games. It's going to give you a chance to stick around and have an opportunity to win the game in the late innings. And they've gotten a lot of those lately. And they also got Dylan Cease's best start of the season. Conversely, they got Nick Pavetta's one of his worst starts of the season. Right. And I fully expected Pivetta to come out and not necessarily shove, but have a stellar performance against the Dodgers, because he's gritty. He's got some dog in him, competitive guy, fiery. I was like, all right, let's see him against the Dodgers. This is going to be fun. And it was not fun. But Dylan Cease looked every bit like Dylan Cease. And so maybe he starts to kind of hit his stride a little bit. But I mean, who knows where this team would be if they didn't have Kolek, now Berger, and Randy Vasquez pitching the way that they have. And we'll see if we see Matt Waldron at some point. It sounds like he's going to the complex. And if he has rehab starts or just does it there, but appears to be getting closer. So that's really encouraging. But the Michael King thing just kind of hanging over their head, not knowing what to do with that. I don't know. But at least in the meantime, they've gotten some respectable performances. If that's not the case, we might be looking at a 500 ball club right about now.
Yeah, which again would be right in Mike Schildt's wheelhouse. 50 and 50 last year, and then they went on and win 93 games. How about, and by the way, you're right. I think this organization had a lot more starting pitching depth than we ever realized, even in spring training. That was a big concern for them, and they've had to have it tested, man. And huge kudos to Kolek and Berger and Vasquez and even Kyle Hart. guys who have come in and really, really looked good and throwing the ball well at times. So that they've been awesome. They've just been awesome at what they've been doing. A term for the start that you mentioned. Let's say you go 4 2/3, allow 1 run with 4 walks and 2 strikeouts, something along those lines. How about a thanks, buddy, you did your best start? We'll call that TBYDB.
What about an attaboy?
Attaboy, I know Mark Grant would love that. An attaboy start. I like that. That's a good one.
Yeah, something that's quick, rolls off the tongue. Leads the league with 15 attaboys. But he's only got 3 quality starts.
The participation trophy start.
A participation trophy start. That's exactly what it is.
I like it.
They've had a bunch of those.
Sometimes, man, listen, nobody's expecting. But you know what, though? That also brings an element of expectation. Because if Randy Vasquez goes out and gives you 5+ innings, runs his pitch count up to 96 pitches, has to come out. He gave up, 2 runs, 3 hits, 2 strikeouts, walked 4. Just kind of like, you're like, you know what? Hey, Randy, that's all we expected from you. If Dylan Cease did that, you'd be like, what the hell is wrong with you?
Right.
So there's an expectation level there too of, well, we didn't think Stephen Kolek was going to be able to do this. Since you did it, awesome, well done. Versus, if Nick Pivetta goes out there and does that, you're like, we brought you in to be better than that. What are you doing?
Yeah. And I think, especially once you get to the playoffs, like an attaboy start is huge. Like you get 5 innings, 3 runs like that. You feel 2 runs. I mean, you feel really good about that. A quality start feels like you're a world beater. You go 6, allow 1 or 2. You're like, man, what a performance from this guy, especially as you get later into the postseason. So
you get a quality start in a postseason game. You are getting $100 million contract. I wish I was exaggerating. I don't feel like I am.
No, you're these days, especially you're absolutely right. Let's wind down. I mean, it's just, you got the D-backs who are currently 6.5, 4.5 behind the Padres, 6.5 out of first place. They've won
out of a wild card, right?
They've won 3 in a row, 7-3 in their last 10. They've been as good as anybody in the division over the last week and a half. You got to worry about the Diamondbacks, who you face twice before the All-Star break. You host them for 4 in early July. You've got obviously the Dodgers for 4. I mean, that's, they kept it close enough with the Dodgers from 1 game going into the series, 2 games back now. But you go to Dodger Stadium. If that goes sideways, you run the risk of really setting yourself back as the second half approaches, especially when you have this Diamondback series. You go to Philly, part of a 6-game road trip that includes the Reds. They host the Nats. That could be interesting. And then you wrap up the first half against the Phillies. I mean, there's some beefy, and we knew this, but some beefy series coming up, especially as it pertains to division. 7-game road trip coming off this series against the Dodgers, coming off kind of a tough split against the Giants. And we could see all this washing out, and we're right where we are, where everybody's stacked within 3 or 4 games of one another, and you're like, okay, that's fine, second half, let's ride. But you're also in this position where if you don't figure some things out, if say pitching starts to struggle, the bullpen continues to take some lumps here and there, and the bats don't produce, you could run yourself into trouble pretty easily. I have no idea which way it's going to go. But I guess that's the nature of a stretch where you feel like every game is a toss up. They're not completely healthy. Guys aren't clicking. It feels precarious. It feels very precarious right now. On one hand, it's been encouraging the fact that they've won a lot of these games, but then you can't help but wonder, how long is that going to last?
Speaking of the Diamondbacks, I keep seeing Eugenio Suarez's name pop up in trade rumors. I know Corbin Burns is out for the year with a torn UCL. I don't think the Diamondbacks will be throwing in the towel quite that quickly. But if it does happen, I know he's a third baseman and pretty much only a third baseman, and we got a pretty darn good one there. If you can talk one of those dudes into going to first base, Eugenio Suarez checks a lot of boxes the Padres would need. Right-hander, power, length in the lineup. Again, you're trading inside the division. But is that a guy who AJ might look at and go, you know what? I wouldn't mind it. Wouldn't mind bringing that dude over.
100% agree. I mean, like you said, you'd have to kind of feel out the fit a bit. Lefties for his career, against lefties for his career, has an 827 OPS, hits 254.
He's swinging the bat really well this year. Multiple grand slams already.
19 homers. He's a gamer. Seems like would be a great clubhouse fit. Seems like a fun guy to have around. And I think, again, what was frustrating about Adam Frazier is like the Padres have always needed a thumper. And that's what's been fun about Gavin Sheets this year.
Mm-hmm.
And Suarez is, he's a bit of a thumper. He brings some of that to you.
Yes,
He brings
he
the
is.
slug. He brings the power. A guy that can change a game with a swing of the bat. I would love that. And I don't know what his contract situation is.
I'm looking at it right now. He's in the last year of a contract, getting paid $15 million this year, $13 million against the luxury tax. Padres be on the hook for about half of that.
Yeah, he's about to turn 34. How often is he actually playing shortstop? Has he?
Dude, Manny can play short. Manny has played short. Manny's a shortstop by trade. When the Dodgers got him from the Orioles back in 2018, they got him because Corey Seager got hurt. They needed a shortstop. Now, again, it's been 7 years since he's done it, but can he be any worse than Xander's been?
Suarez hasn't played shortstop since 2021. So that's not an option. You're looking at a DH and a rotational third base.
Okay, I'll take him as a DH. Right now, they got nothing. They got nothing at I would take him as a DH. And they ever now put him at third to give Manny a spell to get him some DH days. If you got a third base DH platoon of Machado and Suarez, I'm happy with that.
And does Suarez care? Like, does Suarez need third base reps? I mean, he might be fine with that too.
I think we just solved the Padres' problems, Darnay. Go out and get you Eugenio Suarez.
If the Diamondbacks are willing to do that, which again would feel, and Gurriel, being one of the suggestions from Jim Bowden, that also seemed a little bit surprising. I was just looking at.
Let's have no more Gurriels this year.
Let's have no more Gurriel. For whatever reason, as a DH, he's got his. Am I looking at this? I feel like I'm looking at this wrong. His worst numbers, not a ton of, only 106 games as a true DH, hitting 167 with a 527 OPS. We'll say that's a fluke, and Suarez would figure it out. But in terms of like a profile of a hitter, you can make an argument from a positional standpoint. Profile of a hitter, Suarez is a guy that I would really like.
Yeah. See, now we're talking. He got 18 homers, 48 runs batted in, 812 OPS this year. I'd take that. We could use that right now. Now, granted, it's easier to hit in Arizona than it is at Petco Park, but still, it's warming up. Petco Park's going to start playing more neutral. The guy's got him. He's not like he's a Ryan Ludwig, where the power just completely goes away because he's not in the Midwest anymore. Like, the guy's got power in any ballpark. He had power in Seattle, for God's sake.
Now, okay, does this ring any alarms? In 30 games at Petco Park, he's in 218 with a 692 OPS. And let's go
because he's facing Padres pitching. He's facing Padres pitching at Petco Park, which has historically been pretty darn good.
But then if you go to Dodger Stadium, 29 games, 218 with a 616 OPS.
Again, a pitcher's park against Dodgers pitching staff, which historically is very, very good.
I know, but you're going to have to hit Dodgers pitching if you're playing for the Padres. And is
that any worse than what the Padres have right now?
Oh, yeah, fair. Against the Giants, 257 with the 837 OPS.
There you go. See? Again, Oracle Park against historically pretty good Giants pitching. Which shows you what Manny Machado's done with the Padres really is even more remarkable than you think about when you realize he got out of the National League East, that's an offensive division, to come out west here. He got Colorado, which is like playing on the moon. And Arizona is a good hitter's park, but San Diego, LA, and San Francisco, those are both three organizations that have very good pitching, that have very tough ballparks to hit in. And you got to play, especially when it was the unbalanced schedule, you're talking about with 50 games in those parks. That's a 30-year season against really tough competition in really tough hitters' parks. Like that means something.
Yeah. No, I agree. So I mean, hopefully one of these days we get the random passing tweet, passing bomb, one of these guys that out of nowhere Preller's swung a deal for somebody because they need it. They're in a stretch of the season where they could really use it. 3 at Arizona, then 4 against the Dodgers. I'll have to figure out the timing of the pod next Thursday evening game at Dodger Stadium. So middle of that series and back home to face the Royals that Friday. So we will see what this week brings, but it's another biggie, Derek.
Yes, it is. All the division ones are biggies, and 4 in that place up there in Chavez Ravine.
It's worrisome.
It's worrisome. I still have bad memories the last time I was there because it was Game 5, and it was man, that one was rough.
That was tough. Hopefully it'll be a better visit this time around. It wouldn't take much. It can't be worse than that one. But hopefully it'll be a promising trip to Dodger Stadium, an encouraging trip to Dodger Stadium with 4 up there. And if they can just hold serve, stay where they're at, I think we'd all feel good because it has been a challenging few weeks from a variety of standpoints, injuries, slumps, and all that. And so hopefully we'll have some fun, encouraging stuff to talk about next week.
Brighter days are ahead.
The D-backs 4 against the Dodgers. Brighter days ahead, indeed. Thank you, Derek. Thanks to everybody, and we will catch you next week.